So it's 10 o'clock, so we'll call this regular meeting then Franklin Council of Governments to order on Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. Lacey, would you do the convening statement, please?
Yes.
John Trumbo.
Joined the meeting.
I don't know if anyone else can, but I can't hear anything right now.
How can we see if we're on there?
Hopefully for just a second, we'll get people admitted. Okay, I think we can finish it and just started it. Sorry about that.
Oh, Lacey, thank you. If you're online and you have a phone or a computer, would you please mute your microphone?
Just muted those.
Oh, thank you. All right, Michelle, would you do roll call?
I will. Benton-Franklin Transit.
President.
And is that Richard Bloom, just to verify? Or was that Thomas for Benton-Franklin Transit?
Benton-Franklin Transit, could you give us your name, please?
Okay, oh, Thomas. Okay, thank you. Benton County.
Oops. Present.
City of Benton City.
Here.
City of Connell. City of Kennewick. I know that John's here. Yeah, he's here. City of Pasco.
Charles Grimm.
City of Prosser. Marcella here. City of Richland here. City of West Richland.
Kate Moran, present.
Franklin County.
Clint Didier here, and I'd like to introduce Brian Danzel, our interim administrator. And I would please ask if you would, Brian's going to give you his email. If you could email him this so he can get on his computer and participate in these also.
Absolutely.
Can you give that to him right now and he can punch it in? So, or can you send it to him so he'll give you his email address?
I can, I'm ready.
Okay, it's B Danzel at franklincountywa.gov.
How do you spell your last name, Brian?
Yeah, D is in dog, A is in Adam, N is in Nancy, S is in Samuel, E is in Echo, L is in Lollipop.
Perfect, thank you. We'll get that sent over to you.
Thank you.
Port of Benton. Port of Kennewick.
Skip the Vocatage.
And Port of Pasco is excused for today. Washtenaw South Central. Okay, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum, thank you. Introduction of guests. Do we have any guests online other than the one introduced by Commissioner Didier? Then I'd just like to introduce Tim Martin, who is the CEO of the Port of Kennewick. He's here to do a presentation in just a little bit. All right, our next agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is approval of the agenda. And if there's no objection, I would like to amend the agenda to move item 10, action items, under the consent agenda, item 8. If there's no objection, we'll amend the agenda accordingly. All right, seeing no objection, then action item 10 is moved under consent agenda, item 8. Our next agenda item is an opportunity for public comment. We just ask that anyone state their name, city or residence for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to make a public comment at this time? All right. Seeing none, then I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine that I've known since he moved to town in 1996, and I've worked with him since 2009. Tim Martin, the CEO of the Port of Kennewick. Tim, glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate the opportunity. And for those folks that are remote, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. If I can. Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. Now, Commissioner Novakovich has told me that I have, what, 3 hours for my presentation?
Not quite, but
Okay. Well, we'll run through it rather quickly. And just so you know, having me sit down in this chair is kind of a tough one because I've always had attention deficit disorder as a youngster, and I like to move around the room, but I'll try it from here and see how we can do. Port of Kennewick does work very, very well with a lot of community partners, your group included. We do appreciate the opportunities that you offer us. I know we have some of our port employees that are on some of your committees and so forth. You probably remember Larry Peterson, our planner. And again, the opportunities that your organization offers, not only to our port, but to the region, are very much appreciated. So what I'm going to do today is just take a few minutes and give you the high level flyover of what our port is up to. And you know, a lot of times when I get in front of groups, they ask, what are port districts? What do they do? What's their function? And after 23 years with the Port of Kennewick, I'm still learning that. But it's actually, there's a little bit of truth to that, because under the statutes, we have a lot of things that we can do. There's some interesting things we can do. We can run water taxis, we can own and operate motels, we can do all sorts of things. But you come back to what our mandate is, the core mandate from the legislature is to engage in economic activities that help the region. And we really focus on helping the private sector by working with them to build jobs and a better job base in our community. The other thing we offer, and you go to the, looking at this slide, to me, it's the right-hand side, enhancing the quality of life. And that's really, really important. And this is one that sometimes the groups I get in front of ask, really, is that what ports are supposed to do? And I think it is, because here's an example. We all know that when we have businesses looking in our area, they're probably looking at other places as well. Boise, Idaho, Spokane, Seattle, Portland. And what they look at, and I've learned this from talking to a lot of the CEOs of the big businesses, or even small businesses, there's a couple of things they look at. Oh no, we're not ready for that. I gotta go back.
Sorry, I'm sorry. That was me.
Okay. Here we go. They will look at a community first and say, does this have the tangibles that we really need? Does this have the available land at a good price? Does it have the transportation system we need? Can we build what we need to do in this community? And that's really the first thing they look at. But then the second thing, very close behind that, is where can we attract good employees? Where can we move some employees from our headquarters to that they actually want to live in? And like Skip said, I've been here since 1996, and I've seen a lot of improvements that we've made, the cities, the counties, the ports, et cetera. And that is very, very important to attract and retain that talent associated with the business expansion. Quality of life, where do you want to live? A lot of times we got to think of it this way is if you're an employee, it might be a great place, but what does your spouse think? What does your family think? Are there amenities? So that's one thing I like to talk about is really enhancing the quality of life is economic development. Now, here's the most important slide in our whole presentation. Ready?
Who put that in there?
That was Tanner. No, but actually, you know, and the courts work generally in our area with 3 commissioners. And that's kind of an interesting dynamic. With 3 commissioners, they can't talk to each other because that's a violation of public law. If you have a city council with 7, 2 of them can talk, that's fine. But we have 3 commissioners and they can't talk to each other than in a commission meeting. So it's really kind of an interesting dynamic, and that's part of my role is I try to interface with each of the 3 commissioners, and a lot of times you can share information, you know, over a cup of coffee, things like that. It's kind of like practicing for the basketball game. The basketball game is your commission meeting, but the teams that win do a lot of practicing, and that's things that the public doesn't see. So part of our practicing is creating a great relationship between the CEO and the commission, and then also looping in the staff as appropriate. So we try to have everybody under the tent kind of in the, you know, having the ability to talk and have some joint focus on where we're going. Okay, here's Clover Island. It is in East Kennewick. Most of you know where it is. And this slide, pardon my terminology here, but this is crappy. Look at that. They've dumped concrete over the sides of the island. That was done in probably the late 1950s, 1960s. And that's what we did. When you had a quarter of a load from the concrete truck off a project, you just went out to Clover Island, dumped along the shoreline because it stabilized the shoreline. However, in the left-hand portion of the slide, you see how the concrete is kind of gone into the water, and then there's been some undercutting. It creates little crevices and ledges where bass hang out. And here's my story for the fishermen. If you're a salmon fisherman, bass are bad. Okay, if you're bass fishermen, they're great. But for our threatened species, the salmonids, what they do is they go up the Hanford Reach and spawn. We're very fortunate. We have some of the last free-flowing portions of the Columbia River just above Richland. Salmon spawn, and when the juveniles come downstream, the bass come out of these ledges and hiding places and eat the small salmon as they're going downstream to spend 4 years out on the ocean. So one of the things that we've decided to do is improve Clover Island. And when you do a project like that, especially a project in or near the water, you have to build a coalition. And that starts with the federal agencies, National Marine Fisheries, Corps of Engineers, et cetera, et cetera. But you also have to get the tribes involved. They're very, very concerned about what goes on in or near the water. So there's what it looks like now. It's really, really nice looking. Look at the shoreline picture. You can see all the concrete has been taken out. There have been plantings. A lot of the plantings are what we would call native or close to native species. We've worked with the tribes to try to plant the correct things from their perspective with their historical background being in the area. So the shoreline on Clover Island has been improved. It's done a number of things. It's improved the environmental habitat for the salmon and other species. And then if you look upland from the green space, you can see there's new pathways all around the island. We've put those in. So this project doesn't only benefit the wildlife, but it benefits people. When you go down to Clover Island now, one of the things that Skip and I like to see is when you see the moms come in with the minivans and they offload the kids, put them in the strollers, and they walk on the pathways, or, you know, pick your group that you like to watch. There's seniors that go down there. So it's really been a great project from the environmental point of view, and then the enhancing quality of life point of view. Then you look at the little inset on the right-hand side. Members of the Confederated Tribes with a historic drum that they've got drumming and singing and offering prayers for the project. And we built a great relationship with the tribes. It's kind of fun to see that, they're reconnecting with our community, and a lot of that is working with our port on the waterfront enhancements. We're now moving a little bit inland from Clover Island to the Columbia Drive area. This is our wine village. We have built a couple buildings for wine production. We worked in concert with the city of Kennewick that has put in a pre-treatment facility for the small wineries. And let me talk about that for just a second. Our state has got a bunch of wineries. Last time I checked, it was over 600. Many of them are small. You'll have a husband and wife team starting out. You'll have farmers that were doing cherries are now getting into the wine industry, but a lot of them are still on the smaller part of it. And with our state regulations, it's very, very critical that there's pre-treatment of the wine effluent. So if you're washing wine barrels, whatever goes down the drain, the authorities are focusing on that. So a small winery would have to put in a pre-treatment facility, probably today, $200,000. Well, we worked with the city of Kennewick, and the city of Kennewick put in the infrastructure for the pre-treatment. And then we were able to put in the building. So now we can offer spaces for the small winemakers to come in, and we tell them, we've already got the pre-treatment taken care of. You deal with the city of Kennewick, and for $21 a month or whatever it is, you just pay them. They pre-treat it, and then it goes into their treatment system. So that's a big part of the wine village. It's a good example of partnering in our community. And then you can see some of the food trucks there. We put in facilities for food trucks. And we're making, let's back up for a second. People say, well, why did you want to get in the wine industry? Why did you want to go to East Kennewick? Those are good questions. East Kennewick needs a little bit of help. And sometimes port districts will go into the areas that need the most help rather than going and buying property in the best part of town. We sometimes go to the areas that need help. And then the second question is, why the wine village? It wasn't necessarily that we wanted to get in the wine industry, but we had to say what tool would help us enhance East Kennewick, what activity. So we got thinking about it, and we're not here to compete with the folks at Red Mountain. That's a wonderful experience, but you got to drive. And that's the same thing in the Napa Valley. If you've ever been there, you got to drive. We're trying to consolidate and have 4, 5, 6 small wineries in one area where you can park your car, walk, do some wine tasting, hit the food trucks and so forth. We also have a lot of activities there in the spring, summer, and fall. This is what it looks like. Oh, sorry, that's what it used to look like. Yeah, I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of this picture, and I start off with saying, look at our nice fire pit over there, right? Look at the pond, and then my favorite slide is on the lower right-hand corner. I don't know if you ever remember that show American Pickers, where the two guys go through all these farms and junkyards and stuff and pick stuff. That's my American Pickers slide. That's what it used to look like. But those two, I think one of them is passed now, but they can't do American Pickers there anymore because this is what it looks like now. You see the kids riding the bikes on the waterfront trail that we worked with the city of Kennewick to put in. You see people having a glass of wine at the wine village. So it has been a big noticeable transition over the last few years. And this is Ron Swanby, they call him. He's got a Swampy's Barbecue. And Ron is the first business to step up and buy property from us down there. We have some lots for sale. He used to have a food truck. He's moved into a bricks and mortar building that he built. He's hired employees, and he's a big contributor to the vibrancy of that neighborhood. Now, here's my other line I say, that is Ron Swanby with a pair of big scissors. It's not Elon Musk with his chainsaw. Okay? And then down the bottom, you can see one of the food trucks there. I think that's Nana's Kitchen. So it's a fun place to go. Now we're going to move on to Vista Field for a little bit. Vista Field was our airport right in the center of Kennewick, and it was a really neat little airport in its day. It was 103 acres. The city of Kennewick ran it for a number of years. 1991, they transferred it to the Port of Kennewick. We ran it up until about 2012. And as Commissioner Kent knows, Running an airport is no small task. They have a very vibrant general aviation airport. Ours was a general aviation airport, meaning little planes fly in, then the big commercial ones fly in. And ours had a really interesting aspect of geography, being right in the center of our community. And most of your airfields are a little bit on the outskirts. You look at the Tri-Cities Airport, you know, a little bit outside so the planes can come in, and you know, it's really odd to have an airport right in the middle of the community. Our airport was underperforming. There were only 22 planes that used it, and a lot of them were for recreational travel. We did an outreach with the community to talk about, should we close the airport? Should we upgrade it? Should we maintain it? And the consensus from the community was that they thought the airport had served its time well, but it was time for a transition. And what the community wanted was something different. They didn't want to just see more strip malls and, you know, sprawl that we sometimes see in communities. They wanted to see a new urbanist community. And we selected a consulting firm. Turned out they were from Miami, Florida, and they had been on the forefront of new urbanism back in the 70s. So that's kind of where we went with public input. And, you know, commissioners and myself, we remind ourselves that this is not the port's master plan. This is the community's master plan. So we have folks that are really careful about making sure that we follow the master plan, the community master plan. So we're transitioning into mixed use where there can be places for commercial, retail, coffee shops, wine bars, restaurants. We have a wedding shop that's going in. We have already being built right now. We have a Japanese restaurant. So, and then next Tuesday, the Port Commission is going to consider a proposal from a builder to build 300 single-family homes over the next decade. And again, remember, it's a mixed-use community. And while we call it new urbanism, if you really wanted to get kind of a briefing on what it is, it's kind of like the small downtowns used to be prior to World War II.
Old urbanism.
Old urbanism, that,
Like you were retreat.
yeah. So it's kind of going, you know, that movie Back to the Future. That's kind of what we're doing. And, you know, we see a lot of the sprawl, especially around here, because we have cheap land and it's easier sometimes to go out than to kind of build on a smaller footprint. So what we're trying to do is build that urban center, and it would be attractive to not only the people of Kennewick, but to the people of Richland, West Richland, other areas that, you know, it's a 20-minute drive for a lot of our community to come to Vista Field. And the concept is, we love cars, but we also love people as well. So what we're doing, and I think your transportation element here, you know, this kind of fits in with your way of thinking as well, is we're looking at blending in those two aspects, the car and the pedestrian, in a seamless way. So the way I would look at it is, I live up on Riata Road, I'm 11 minutes away, yes, I've timed it. I could drive down there, park my car and walk and see some of the amenities, the creek, the fountains. I could go to the coffee shop, I could walk to whatever other stuff we've got. And it might be that I park my car and for 2 hours, I'm walking through the community. And it's gonna take a little bit of time to get there, but we are starting. We look at this sign, that's our sign that shows the lots in phase 1. We have 4 sold stickers on there, it should be 5 today. We have a couple pending, and then we have a couple more in the works. And what we're trying to do is be methodical about it. We're not jumping at just the first proposal that comes through the door. We want to be fair and transparent with people that want to buy property there. We tell them what our expectations are. We hear what their expectations are. And we start in with what we call a collaborative design process. So before the commission gets a purchase and sale agreement to consider, we've worked with these people. We tell them we need to see a site plan. We need to see some rough sketches of what your building would look like. We want to know, you know, what activities you would be bringing in. And it's actually gone very, very well. We've had people that have worked through the process. So we're hearing that it's not overly burdensome on the private sector. But we do have to be upfront with these folks from the very beginning, and there might be some great projects, but if they don't fit the mold of Vista Field, then, you know, that's just one of the things that we have to be fair and square with the people right up front with. This is a project that has, Commissioner Alvarez probably remembers this one, you know, because we went to Benton County with an idea. We had 3 aircraft hangars that were left over from the airport. We at first tried to build them up to make spaces that we could lease out. But with the new energy codes, we couldn't do that. Here's an example. Nowadays, they want some insulation, I guess it's 18 inches below the surface, maybe it's 24 inches. But it was things like that we could just never do with those hangar buildings. They were really great buildings, just kind of like that white elephant. What do you do with it? So we came up with a plan that we deconstructed them a little bit. You can see the siding is taken off, and we had to do that to get to where we could use them as open space pavilions. So working carefully with the city of Kennewick, with their planners, we were able to come up with a project that was sound, you know, met all 4 corners of the regulatory documents. So these, we've taken 2 of the 3 hangars. They are almost complete. Again, we had substantial funding from Benton County through the Rural County Capital Fund. And that was the financial backing we needed to bring this public amenity to life. So you can see this is a mock-up of what they would look like. It's an area where groups can come in, community groups can come in. We can have Saturday markets. We can have the kids choir. You can have plays, all sorts of things. And we have some parking that would be just in the foreground of this slide. We're adding more parking so we can have a spot for these community events, because that is another aspect of the town center. You want to have places where the community can come in and have some activity.
John Trumbo.
Join the meeting.
That brings that vibrance. Community.
I'm gonna have to click back in here, sorry. Oh, good.
And this is getting down to my last slide. On the left-hand side, the bell of the Japanese restaurant that's being built right now. That was our groundbreaking a couple months ago. And then you can kind of see some of the fountains that will come to life here very shortly. What we have to do is we kind of turn the water off in the winter time. We're still working on seeing if we can get them to run year round, but with the freezing temperatures here, at least for the first couple of years, we run them from about April through October. And, you know, one of the interesting things of Vista Field, in my opinion, is that stream. And I would encourage you, maybe in the next couple of weeks, come on out, walk Vista Field, look at the stream. Very, very impressive. And when we did the stream, we found out that there's a lot of complexities with that. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can put the dye into the stream to make it a darker green, because that suppresses the algae. But that looks non-natural. The other way is you can have the clear water, but you have to chlorinate it to keep the algae out. The other thing is when we talked about water features, we went to many places and we were cautioned that people will want to get in the water, no matter what you do, especially the kid. So the chlorination of it was also a big thing, because you don't want to get your kid in the water and they come home with some sort of a, you know, weird whatever. And recognizing that, we actually built steps to go into the creek. So we're fully in, so to speak. So that was a decision we had to make. It requires a little bit more maintenance of adding the right amount of chlorine to it. But we knew that the kids, and even some of the bigger kids, would want to get into it. So we put steps in certain places. And, you know, I like to go out there with my dogs, and I've got a lab, and I try to keep her out of the creek, but it doesn't always work. But we have to remember that people will be people, and people want to have things that they can see and feel and touch. So the stream, I think, has met that list of criteria. So pretty proud of what we're doing out of Vista Field, and I think that was the last one. So again, thank you very much for the time, and if you have questions, I'm certainly available for questions.
Tim, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Kate online.
Kate?
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. I know myself, I've gone to Clover Island and it is gorgeous, and I am really looking forward to seeing all of the other things. My question, though, is that with West Richland being, last I checked, about 40% of the tax base for the Port of Kennewick, I'm looking forward to seeing what the future projects are for the West Richland area. Can you tell a little bit about what the future projects for West Richland are?
Well, yeah, Kate, thank you for the question. Let me go back to the future on you. And I know I'm not answering your question directly, but the racetrack property in West Richland is 93 acres. And the port worked quite a while back on working in conjunction with the city of West Richland and with very, very smart land use attorneys out of Seattle to get that property in the urban growth boundary. And there had been some attempts earlier and they were defeated. We had groups like FutureWise that would come in. They are very, very cautious of bringing more property into the urban growth area. But we actually had an outreach to the director, who's now, I think she's the commissioner of state lands, public lands. We met with her personally. We talked to her about what we were planning to do in conjunction with the city of West Richland. So the first big step that others tried and couldn't do, we got the property into the urban growth area. Then again, working in conjunction with the city of West Richland, we got it into the city limits. So that meant you could then legally get development out on that site. You could get water, sewer, you could bring it into city standards, so to speak. But that's a long process. The other thing that folks don't remember is there was an inundation clause on that property. And that meant that which district was this? Was it the KID?
KID.
Yeah, KID had the right legally to flood that property up to 2 feet deep. So if a canal broke, hey, just send it out onto the property. And that was there before we bought the property. So we had some property that was great, except if you wanted to sell it. Hey, you want to buy some property? It's really great, but we can flood your property up to 2 feet deep. So that was another challenge. We worked with the KID, and in a lot of cases, an irrigation district does not have to participate in what we think is important. You know, their mission is different, bringing water to the farmers and the residents. But we worked with the KID. We helped them fund an experimental water control gate in their canal. And they figured that if they had a problem using the gate that we essentially bought for them to put in their canal, they could back up the canal and they did not need the inundation clause. So remember, they didn't have to do that. And that property would have essentially been valueless with that inundation clause. And then we worked to do some planning on the property, and we realized that our development schedule was a little bit different than West Richland's. Their mayor really wanted to go and go now. And because we serve a lot of jurisdictions, not only West Richland, but Kennewick, parts of Richland, Benton City, and Benton County, we can't just do everything for everybody when they want it. But what we did do, recognizing that the mayor had a mandate to develop now, that we sold the property to West Richland, 93 acres, and we got an appraisal, and we sold the property to the city of West Richland for $1,200,000 discount. Okay, and you can do that government to government. We can't do that to the private sector because that runs afoul of the Constitution of gifting funds to the private sector. But we can do it jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We sold that property to the city of West Richland for $1,200,000 under value, with the recognition, with the understanding, at least from the mayor, that that was a large, large contribution that we made, and that would carry us forward in the hopefully in the good graces of the city of Richland. So, there are things that we've done and we've paid it forward into the future. So you have 93 acres that we got all of the entitlements knocked out of the way. I understand there's now a police station there. There's some other cool stuff going on there. So that's what we've done for you lately.
I would like to have the same question, but that will be for Richland. I was Richland by Richland. Obviously we are a pretty significant taxpayer base for the Kennewick district, port. So I would like to know, what have you done for me lately, I guess is the question. And I mean, the taxpayer of the city of Richland.
Yeah, another good question. And just going off the top of my head here, I don't have all the data in front of me, but there was a resident living up by the parking lot for the Badger Mountain Trailhead. And there was a real problem with cars parking along the street for those residences with kids running around and things like that. It created a significant safety concern. So sometimes all it takes is one resident in our port district come to us with an issue, shared it with the commissioners, and we recognized there was a problem. We worked with the city of Richland to try to solve that problem. And what we came up with was that there was a need for additional parking, convenient parking at the trailhead. So we worked with the city of Richland to help establish that parking. So when you go to Badger Mountain Trailhead, I think there's even a little sign there talking about the Port of Kennewick's commitment to that. So we've significantly committed resources there. And, sometimes you look at, well, how many dollars did we get? Maybe we look at how many lives maybe were no longer in jeopardy. And I think that's a very significant project, at least in my mind, when you can talk about the safety of the residents and so forth. And then just a couple of years ago, with the Columbia Park Trail extension, we worked with the city of Richland. They approached us and they had the same thought you did. Hey, Tim, we're contributing to your tax base. Can you help us? So we worked with them and we were able to put in $800,000 for the Columbia Park Trail road extension. And we were going to go through Benton County with rural capital funds to do it. But because of the advanced construction schedule, and there's an application process for the rural county funds, we decided just to find $800,000 in our budget that was unencumbered. So rather than going to the county asking for rural county funds for this, we put in $800,000 cash from our budget in for the Columbia Park Trail extension. So those are just a couple of projects that come to mind. There have been more in the past, and we do value our relationships with each of our community partners. But here's something else to think about. West Richland, for example, in my mind, one of the great aspects of West Richland is you can live on your 5 acres and you can have your goats and chickens and ducks and things. And you can have the rural lifestyle, but you're, like I said earlier, you're probably 18 minutes from Vista Field. And that's not a project that is only for Kennewick residents. That's a regional project. So even if you're in West Richland or Benton City or other parts of our community, Vista Field is for you. So it's a community-wide asset that is, being built for everybody. And sometimes in the port world, you have to look at, the larger encompassing boundaries of our port district, where rather than just where we're going to do this for city A or B, you look at what commitment can you make. The commitment might be in city A, but it might benefit cities B and C and county D.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on that, because when it comes down to the tax revenue, right, it goes to a specific city. It doesn't go to the tri-cities. It stays in the city of Kennewick. So the majority of your investment going to the city of Kennewick means that the tax base will stay in the city of Kennewick. Yet the investment comes from city of Richland and West Richland as well.
And I understand that.
Anybody else have any?
We had 2 online. We had Charles and then Michael Alvarez, but he may have put his hand down. But Charles.
Charles?
Thank you. Tim, that was an excellent presentation. Lots of really, really good stuff going on in Kennewick. And I just kind of wanted to piggyback on a comment I made a meeting or two ago, just that, even the Tri-City Area Journal of Business posted on their media page yesterday, just all the good things going on that JMS Construction's doing out at Osprey Point. It would be so good to see the Artisan Village, Clover Island and all of that connected by a water taxi, or just somehow connected all to make some tourist destination, just to really enhance the whole Tri-Cities and everything like that. But yeah, good job, man. Lots of good stuff going on over there. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Could I offer a comment? Go ahead. Yeah, Charles, haven't met you yet, but sure like to meet you. I started my career working at the city of Pasco. I was an underling there for 6 years. And I got to tell you, I have seen a lot of improvements in Pasco. And the downtown area is being revitalized. And I have a love for the city of Pasco. It's where I got my start in government. I think your question is right on point. Our port commission had a joint meeting with the Port of Pasco Commission a couple months ago, and we did talk about exactly what you have brought up. The fact that the Pasco waterfront is developing, and it's directly across from the development we're doing at the Kennewick waterfront. And it's interesting, when you stand on the docks out there and you look our way, we can stand on the lowered levees and look at, over to you guys. And we can do development on each side of the river. And a water taxi would be an ideal amenity for our community to connect Kennewick to Pasco. If it's done right, it can connect us to Richland, to other parts of our community. And Charles, I have a little bit of experience with that, because what brought me to Tri-Cities was I started a boat business running jet boat tours up the Hanford Reach. And I have been in the boating industry for many, many years. I hold a Coast Guard passenger license. And my port commission has asked us to do a little bit of exploring around the water taxi issue. A couple days ago, I made a call to one of the boat builders in Lewiston, Idaho. We got a rough quote for a water taxi. So we're kind of methodically pursuing that. And in our community, we've talked about a water taxi for 35 years. And it hasn't happened. And here's what I say, and I don't know if Skip is on the same page, I think you might be, but if we're going to do a water taxi in our community, it's going to come through the Port of Kennewick. We have the infrastructure to do it. We have a really nice marina where the boat can be kept under covered moorage. We have fueling, both gas and diesel. We have the holding tank pump out. We have dock space. And if our port commission wants to budget for this, I think that we can add this amenity to the community. And again, it's going to stop in Richland. Okay. It can't stop in West Richland. Well, maybe we can. I don't know. We'll work with some of the folks up there, but it'll be a shallow draft boat. But I'm just joking. It can't stop in West Richland. Probably not. But again, it could be a community-wide amenity. So, Charles, thank you for your question. And if you want to catch up with me, I'd love to talk to you more about this stuff offline. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, Tim. Yes, and the water taxi, was just kind of the obvious idea. Just as much as we can, just enhance the whole area through, like you said, just building up both sides of the waterfront, man. It's just great for everybody, great for the area, great for tourism dollars. And yeah, I love every bit of it. So thank you again.
Thank you, Charles.
Tim, thank you. And if you'll excuse me, I've got to be at another meeting, so I'm going to turn this over to Marcella, and she's going to take good care of you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There are two more questions.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Tim, are you okay staying there?
Yeah, you bet.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, Maricela, is that okay?
Oh, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, so it was Michael and then Kate. So Michael.
Oh, thank you. Just wanted to go ahead and say to Tim, and I know Skip's leaving right now, but I think I've known Tim for about 8 years, and two of those commissioners have been on there for about 30 years. So I'm kind of aging myself, but I wanted to go ahead and say, Tim, and the commissioners there, and Tim, your staff, you guys have done outstanding. All the jobs you guys have done or all the projects you guys have done, Vista Phil, Clover Island, etc. They're projects that everybody can see and enjoy. So you guys are doing some big time things. I know here at Benton County, we've partnered with you. I know when I saw or that the city of Richland, same thing, partnering with you. So I just wanted to go ahead and say thank you for all that you guys are doing to improve our community. Just wanted to go ahead and say that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Alvarez, and again, a shout out to Benton County. You guys have been so instrumental, not only to the Port of Kennewick, but to the other jurisdictions, because the rural county funding belongs to Benton County, doesn't belong to any of us, and Commissioner Alvarez and his cohorts have done an amazing job of brokering those funds out to the community partners. So, Commissioner, thank you for your support.
Thank you.
And that's a question as well.
Thank you. Yes. First, I hope that you don't think that I'm being ungrateful for the past actions done by the Port of Kennewick. But I do want to echo what Councilmember Jones had said and ask if it would be something out of order to have a joint, at least workshop between the port and the city so that all of the council members like myself who were not on council when the activities had all taken place with the actions that happened in West Richland with the Port of Kennewick, so that we could all discuss further future plans for West Richland.
Yeah, Kate, thank you for that question. And the port representative just left, he had other things to do, so I want to be careful in my answer. I work for the three commissioners, and this would be a decision made by the commission. But I can tell you from my perspective, I think they would graciously accept an invitation. And I know from my perspective, we'd love to get out there and spend some time with you folks and look at where we've been and where we could go in the future. So just from my perspective, I think that's a great idea. And I will visit with our commissioners about that opportunity. Does that kind of seem workable?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I wanted to thank you, Tim, for that great presentation. I work at Cadillac, and I know that often recruitment and retention of employees from throughout the nation to the Tri-Cities can be challenging. And I think Vista Field really will fill a need in terms of what people are looking for in the community and what people are asking for when they come and they interview. So it's really exciting to know that we can, point people in that direction, that there is a variety of living styles and communities that they can be a part of here in the Tri-Cities.
Thank you, appreciate that. And then, one of the other things we're looking at Vista Field, I just made a presentation to the commissioners on what type of institutional users could we attract to Vista Field. And one of the things that we looked at and the commission was excited about was the opportunities for some of the smaller medical providers. We probably don't have space for another hospital. I don't know that our community needs another hospital, but we're seeing kind of a different view of providing medical services where it's getting decentralized. So just to let you know, we would be thrilled to talk with the folks at Cadillac and others about are there opportunities for those types of uses at Vista Field. We think it would be very appropriate. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to item 8, our consent agenda. And can we entertain a motion for approval of items A through D on the other consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Roy. So motion by Kate Moran, seconded by Roy. Any questions or discussions on the consent agenda? Just a point of clarification, the consent agenda has not been amended, but the action items are going to be the next item on the agenda after the consent agenda. So we'll bring this one 10 up.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items A through D, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And any opposed? All right, thank you. Consent agenda has been approved. We'll go ahead and bring item 10, our action items, up as amended at the beginning of the meeting. And starting with our economic development.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Zach Rackheim, Local Government Programs Director. As you know, we've been actively recruiting to our Economic Development Advisory Committee, and per the bylaws, members that represent areas outside of our general membership body need to be approved by the board for appointment to the EDAC. And so we've talked about our 3 new members here: Nathan Brandhorst from Wheatland Bank, Cynthia Garcia from Benton-Franklin Workforce Development Council, and Christina Vieira from Edward Jones Investments, and as well Vieira's Bakery in Pasco, are our 3 members that we were seeking to approve for appointment to EDAC. And therefore, I present this to the board with a proposed motion, and I am open to any questions.
Any questions for Zach? All right, a motion to approve the 3 proposed new EDAC members.
I move to ratify the appointment of additional members to the Economic Development District Advisory Committee as presented.
All right, thank you, Kate. Second from Brian. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving these 3 new EDAC members, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
question online? All right, any opposed? All right, thank you very much. The approval has been moved and passed.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move on to item C, the COG action items. And Michelle, will you be helping to present on those?
I will. Okay, so the first action item for the COG is we're getting caught up on some delinquent or existing policies that need updating. The first one sounds a little on the nose, a new policy on policies. But really it was providing some important clarity as far as the types of policies that the COG has, how they are adopted by the organization, how are they reviewed and updated on a more regular basis. So the high points are just that it does define the authorization, categorization, and the formatting of policies that we use. It ensures consistency across the board. It mirrors exactly what the COG has been doing for the last 4 years, but just captures it for the future. And does specify the difference between a governance level policy that would be adopted by a resolution in a more formal way versus an operating level policy that would be adoptable by the consent agenda, and provides that clarity. So you have the resolution number 0225 for adopting the policy on policies.
All right, motion to approve resolution 0225. The policy on policies.
I move to approve. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna make a motion to approve resolution 02-25, adopting the policy on policies.
All right, thank you, Brian.
I do have a point of clarification, and I'm sorry, Brian, but because this is not an MPO issue, I cannot have you make that motion, much as I appreciate it.
All right, then. Well, Kay Moran, I move to approve resolution 02-25, a resolution of the board of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments authorizing the adoption of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments policy on policies as presented.
Second. All right, thank you, Jen. Any questions or discussions? All right, all in favor of approving the policy on policies, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, thank you. Resolution is passed. Second resolution here regarding property lease extension.
Correct. So our current property lease expires on May 31st of this year. The original lease was negotiated to include a one-time 5-year extension of that lease. It is a staff recommendation that we execute that one-time 5-year extension. Our current space is adequate. We moved into the building about a week, I don't know, before the COVID shutdown. So we really have just reached a point that we're kind of settled and using the building in a constructive way. And executing this extension does allow us to be forward thinking that toward the end of that extension, we can start having serious conversations about long-term future. So that would be our recommendation. So there is a resolution 03-25 to authorize and direct me to execute that extension if that is your wish.
All right, and seeking a motion to authorize this property lease extension.
I move to approve Resolution 03-25, a resolution of the Board of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments authorizing property lease extension as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Roy, thank you. Any discussion on this item? All in favor of approving resolution 03-25, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution is passed. And our final COG proposed resolution adopting the wellness program policy.
So under the amended agenda that we sent out earlier this week, there are actually 2 resolutions left. One is for resolution 04-25, adopting the replacement wellness program policy. The original policy was adopted in 2014, so this would be a replacement of resolution 05-14. The original policy just isn't reflective of the current program or the position of the organization supporting the wellness program. So that would be where this resolution comes from.
All right, motion to approve resolution 04-25, adopting the replacement wellness program.
I move to approve Resolution 04-25, a resolution of the Board of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments authorizing the adoption of the replacement Benton-Franklin Council of Governments Wellness Program policy as presented.
Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor of adopting resolution 04-25, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, and any opposed? All right, resolution is passed. And thank you, Elizabeth has alerted me to the updated agenda, which does include a 4th resolution. So resolution 05-25, authorization of the TCR PFD administration MOU.
So this is one that we've been talking about in the staff reports for the last several months, and I apologize for the delay in getting it on the agenda. We had been waiting for just the sign off on our legal counsel to say the MOU is ready to be adopted. The situation that exists is that the COG has been providing administrative support to the Tri-City Regional Public Facilities District since its formation in 2010. However, because the regional PFD has not adopted a project or issued any tax collection, the entity itself has no money. And so according to their interlocal agreement between the cities of Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco that form that district, they are responsible for any expenses incurred while it's in that startup and planning phase, which of course, we're still in 2025. When it was originally set up, an initial pot of funding was provided by those three cities to help subsidize those administrative activities. Those ran out about the time that COVID hit. And so between trying to convene quorums for that group, trying to approve expenses, and then turn around and bill new expenses to the cities, it's a confusing and time-consuming process, which only adds to the amount of money we have to bill in order to try and keep things going. So the solution that we've come to is that instead of having the COG be contracted directly with the Public Facilities District, we will enter into an MOU with the three cities, because we already have an interlocal agreement as participants in the COG, for the COG to provide that administrative service to the PFD on behalf of the cities, which means that all of the accounting functions, approval of expenses and everything happens under the COG, and not trying to make that happen under an entity that meets infrequently and doesn't have any money anyway. So just to simplify that process. That also means that because we're not trying to funnel money through the regional public facilities district, they're also now able to file a non-activity audit report. So again, every couple of years we go through an audit on an entity that doesn't really have any money, and then they're always questioning what's happening with these bills. And so it just streamlines everything for everyone. So that's what's driving this MOU, and basically what it describes is just we're contracting to do this work directly for the cities on behalf of the PFD instead of directly with the PFD. Other than that, nothing changes. It just makes it easier for everybody.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And do we have a motion to approve resolution 05-25 regarding this MOU?
So move.
Thank you, Jenna. A
Kate Moran, second.
Thank you, Kate. All in favor?
John Trumbo.
Join the meeting.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. And any opposed? All right, resolution is passed, and that those are all of our COG action items. We'll go ahead and move back up to item 9, which is our transportation planning organization reports.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so this month we are starting off with our monthly update of the Transportation Improvement Program, the obligation status. I'm going to jump straight to the table where the fun is. So as a reminder, as the COG, we are responsible for ensuring that our region is spending money. We have a certain amount that we have to spend of the flavors of several different types of money, whether that be Surface Transportation Block Grant, STBG, that will be an acronym used later, and then TAP, which is Transportation Alternative Programs, and then Carbon Reduction Program. We have a target this year of about 9.1 million, and we have 10.13 million in program projects. We did not meet our target last year for the federal fiscal year, so it is very important that all jurisdictions obligate their funds and spend on their projects this year. If we do not meet our target, there will be a discussion that will be had to have at the board of which project will be having their funds taken away. So that will also be something brought up in a later discussion item. So that will be something just as a top of mind, making sure the board is aware of that. So that as of last month, it is the same. We've only had 2 projects obligate so far. Hopefully next month things start to get going as we're moving into construction season. Any questions on 9A1 before I go on to 9A2?
Do you have a list of the cities that have not done the full use of the funding that has been allocated in the last few years? Is that what we have here in front of us?
Yeah, the table that you have in front of you. So this is for federal fiscal year 2025, year we're in right now. And the projects that are italicized, those are the ones that have moved from 24 to 25. And the ones that are in regular font are the ones that were scheduled to go out this year. As you can see, there's also projects in 26 shown, and even you can have projects in 27 that obligate in 25. As we're doing a call for projects, we don't have any projects in 27 currently, but we're trying to express how important it is to jurisdictions to spend the money that is set for you right now.
Is it because the federal government is pulling those funds away now due to the funding that the federal government has going on? Okay, no, okay.
No,
Just
and
curious.
I'll say.
John Trumbo.
Join the meeting.
City of Richland has a specific instance that is different than the rest of the jurisdictions with the downtown connectivity. Downtown connectivity was shifting from STBG funds to SS4A funds, and there's some different paperwork that's being done with that. But generally, no, these are projects that are just needing to be obligated to offer bid. All right, next is our call for projects. As I've been updating all of you on a month-by-month basis, we're right in the thick of our 2025 call for projects, and we're conducting a call for projects for 18.77 million in surface transportation block grant funds, STBG, and 2.27 in transportation alternative program funding, TAP. And I'm just going to give a quick overview of some story maps that make the process a lot more approachable, we will say. As it can be very data heavy, these links are in your, and Lacey's showing up on the screen. This is an excellent story map developed by Alex, and Alex is in the process of uploading all of the project applications that closed yesterday onto this. So all jurisdictions will be able to see how their projects are scoring based upon the criteria, even outside of their own categories. So this is just another way we're trying to make the process more approachable and transparent. Thank you, Lacey. All right, as the call for projects is underway, yesterday was the close of the submission period of applications. So just up on your screen, I'll be going through the application or the projects that were submitted. Probably won't read every single one, but just kind of a highlight. So you'll see what is shown is the jurisdiction, the project title, the amount requested, and then the jurisdiction rank. That is a new, it's a new process we've done with this call, is that with an application submitted, we're asking the jurisdiction to say where it is on their own individual priority list. So City of Prosser, if they submitted 2 applications, they would indicate which one is their number 1, which one's their number 2. Regardless of if it's STBG or TAP, just want to see how much of a priority it is.
John Trumbo.
Join the meeting.
For the STBG Urban Large, $21.3 million requested with these applications. We have $15.8 million available. So some of these projects will not be funded. Lacey, can you click that over?
Yeah.
Next up is the rural applications. There was $6.75 million requested, and we have $2.86 million available for funding. You can see there is Benton City, Franklin County, Benton County, Benton City, and Benton County again. Next up is the urban small. So there was 700,000 127 requested. That is the exact amount available from the STBG funds. There's also some TAP funds that are available for the City of Prosser that we'll be working with to make sure that the City of Prosser collects all of the funding that is available to them. Can you click that on? Thank you, Lacey. Next is the TAP Urban Large. There's 1.6 requested from all of these, and there was 1.9 million available. So you can see that there still is some funding that will not be all allocated to this, or we'll still have some left over, excuse me. We'll touch on that with a new thing that we have added with this call for projects. So with the call for projects and how preservation has been traditionally under funded, we are trying to find a way to have more projects be funded within our region and have preservation be funded. So instead of having a full contingency list of projects, we are having a preservation list that will function as our contingency list. With the caveat of, as we go through the call for projects, there will be some projects that won't be completely funded. Those will be at the top of the contingency list, and then the preservation projects will be there. So as we get into the point of the year where we're hounding the jurisdictions, hey, you need to spend your money, it's much easier for a preservation project to go out and be completed than say, have a project start at the beginning and then be fully completed by the end of the fiscal year. So this is a new process that we're doing with the TAC. It seemed to be very favorable. We're following the Transportation Improvement Board's process, which is something that was recommended to us. There is no specific funding limit for this, so some of these funds will be whatever is available after the SDBG projects are funded. And then here are the rural projects. That was it for the call for projects. So next month, will be after the TAC members have had their special meeting on presentation about each one of their projects, and then staff will be in the process of scoring the non-subjective questions, and then in May we will have our final list to the board for approval.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron.
All right, I have a quick general update just on some plans and the scope of works that were included in your board packet. First is the Regional Pedestrian and Trails Plan. This is a new plan that we're developing here at the COG. Last year, we split the active transportation plan into two. We did the bike plan last year. This year, we're doing the pedestrian and trails plan. Pedestrian and trails plans are a little unique. Normally, it's a pedestrian plan or a trails plan. We're doing both of them. So pedestrian being sidewalk oriented, trails being trails oriented. As we're trying to find ways to connect people from all the way out in the rural area through different trails and here in our urban core with sidewalks, we want to make sure that we're gathering the best data as possible. So it will be looking at different plans that are ongoing. For example, the city of Kennewick just adopted their trails plan with unique ways on making irrigation
John Trumbo.
Join the meeting.
Irrigation canals part of their trail. And we'll be looking into that and how different jurisdictions can leverage things. Get more trails in our region. Next up is our regional freight plan. So the COG has not done a freight plan since 2008, and our region has changed a lot since 2008. And even looking back at the 2008 freight plan, that was done through all of the Tri-Cities area and even into Walla Walla. So we'll be working with local jurisdictions, business partners, to assess how freight is moving within our region right now. How can we forecast in the future to make sure that we're doing the best freight planning possible? Especially with all of the major developments that are going on, as touched on by the Port of Kennewick today, up at Horn Rapids, the Port of Benton, or even out in the Ryman industrial area. So as our region is growing, making sure that we're planning for freight accordingly, whether that's done through barges, trains, or semis. Last but not least, is the TIP policies and procedures. So as I mentioned earlier about how it is imperative that we spend our money and the different sanctions that come with this, those are rules that are set by the state. The TIP policies and procedures is our region's version of that. So how we can hold the jurisdictions accountable and how we can be held accountable as well. So the purpose of the TIP is to ensure that projects planned for implementation over the next 4 years are consistent within our region. So this is our set of rules, making sure that we're not doing anything and ensuring jurisdictions can have funds go to their projects in the appropriate amount of times. So as we are updating this now, we're set to have this updated on the same calendar, or excuse me, on the same schedule as the call for projects. So it'll be done in May and will be brought to the board next.
Thank you very much, Aaron. We'll go ahead and move on to our economic development and local government programs report for Zach.
Oh, it looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kelly?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Aaron, do you mind going back just 2 slides? I missed the date on the regional freight plan.
Yeah,
Did that
it's,
say December 2025?
yes.
Okay, awesome. I might just flag for you. WashDOT is also in the process of thinking about their state freight plan. And I know that they're really thinking about that. So I would just make sure that you coordinate with them as possible.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll make sure that we do that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have a question. So are we for this partnering with Top Deal and the other organizations here in Tri-Cities are trying to make our lives better by creating trails? I hope that we're partnering with them.
Yeah. On our working group, especially for pedestrian and trails, we're going to be approaching it a little different rather than us specific. We will be specifically reaching out to, we'll say, Tap Deal. We're also going to be doing a call for working group. So as there are a lot of different community advocacy groups that we are not even aware of right now, that want to be involved, we're going to welcome them to come to the table as much as possible. But also reaching out to the Tap Deal, Runners of the Sage, Fun Fit and Over 50 in those groups and asking them, what trails do you use that are your most favorite and how can we highlight them on our bike map? And then even if we can develop a regional trails map.
Yeah, or how we can extend it so that it reaches further versus what we have right now, which is kind of brother.
Friends of Badger Mountain has really worked to create greater connectivity all through into West Richland. Are they also involved with this?
Yeah, they are. And the hope is, and I apologize for not explaining this, the hope we will adopt a regional trails network. And I know that TriDeck has done, or excuse me, Visit Tri-Cities has done something similar to that. So if we don't want to recreate the wheel, we'd rather reinforce something that's already there. So with that regional trails network, I'll use Benton City as the example as we've had discussions with them and even Prosser. If we can find ways to connect Prosser to Benton City eventually in the future and have a trail, that would be connecting 3,500 people to the 135,000 people of Yakima. And then if we can connect the gap between Benton City and then West Richland, then we're connecting 135,000 people to 320,000 people. So, and that's all done via walking or biking or scooting. So that would be the hope, is that we can use this plan to make people's grants much more competitive in getting more funding coming into our region.
We'll go ahead and move on to our economic development and local government report. What's that?
Yes, once again, thank you. Can we go up one slide? Yeah, just a couple quick updates here. We don't have all the tangible items that Aaron brought forward yet, but we are steadily working, particularly on the full complete first draft of our SEDS strategy. That is going to be due to the EDAC on April 1st, and that'll kick off our public review process. So we'll make sure that the board and all of our membership and the public are aware that they can review the document as we gear up for our June 30th deadline. Due to the agenda shuffle, we've already approved our new EDD advisory committee members. So thank you very much on that. Next slide. And yeah, as we all know, some of the federal funding opportunities have slowed down a little bit. The state is certainly stepping up in some areas, but since our last meeting, we actually had a private sector grant for small communities that we've been working with through T-Mobile. It's a hometown grant. It's up to $50,000 for community projects like parks, trails, that sort of thing. Connell, Mesa, and Benton City, some of our finest small cities in our membership portfolio, have expressed interest, and we've been able to provide a letter of support for a Benton City application for this grant. So we definitely wish them very well. We'll be looking to do from a regional technical assistance and grant navigation standpoint, a small cities summit. We're going to be looking to send out a couple of dates in early April for that. And basically, it's going to be a listening session. What are small communities struggling with? Where are they finding success these days? And how can the COG and the collective membership body help just really lift everyone up as the region. So we'll be sending some of those information out soon and holding that in early April. And then we have 2 spots left, I believe 1:30 and 2:30 on March 26th, which is next Wednesday for our Congressional Connections meeting. So bringing our staff from the senators' offices and Congressman Newhouse to meet and discuss projects. So we'll be sending out a bulletin on that just to fill those remaining 2 spots, but we'd love to have those filled. And I believe that's all I had to update from our side of things. Yes, I'll turn it over to Michelle unless there's any other questions.
Any questions for Zach? All right, thank you very much, Zach.
Thank you.
So for COG reports, we talked last month about our 10-year target, and so I promised that I would talk a little bit about performance related to our 3-year picture. In your packet, I included a summary of the first 3-year items of all of the things that we said we wanted to accomplish in our 3-year picture, and then also looking forward from 2025 to 2027. Of course, the first thing you'll notice when you look at that, if you look at that in your packet, is that it wasn't really formatted in a way to be conducive to reporting performance. It was really just a list for us of the things that we wanted to be setting goals and working on. So in order to help you all look at that, we went through and did some color coding between green comments for things that had been accomplished, yellow comments for things that were in progress, a nice red X for something that we just haven't gotten to. It was actually a really good exercise for us to go back and look at that 3 years, because every year we look forward and say, what are we going to do in the next 3 years? But to actually look at them in a body and say, okay, in that first 3-year window, what did we actually get done? And I was pretty pleased to see that we had either accomplished or moved forward many of the things that we set out in December of 2021 to say, hey, these are things we want to look at in the next 3 years. And actually, the items that are in that window of 2025 to 2027, there are many of those that are already in progress, and we're 3 months into the year for 25, so that was helpful. I did pull out just a few of the successful highlights in case you didn't look at that not easily digestible piece of information in your report. Operations and facilities, we did adopt our identity and purpose. We did do our bylaws and interlocal and standing committee policies. Our reserve fund now has $500,000. Again, that is so much, such a relief over the 21,000 we started out with. We've begun adopting our core policies and procedures and processes. The loan program is well on its way to being phased out, with a lot of the accounting challenges having been dealt with last year. Our boardroom technology, we continue to work and upgrade that. From human resources and staffing, when I really think about that, we had nothing in the way of structure. So looking there, we've adopted an employee manual, we've implemented HR software, we have hiring and onboarding processes, we have high performing teams that are constantly working to ensure that we're in line with our core values. We've hired additional positions that didn't exist previously. Our executive admin and communications role has continued to evolve. We've brought our staff accounting in-house, which again, I can't express enough how wonderful that is. Our Grant Navigator program, and how successful we've been with our internship to full-time employee program that brought us Lizzie and Daisy, and to some degree Alexis in accounting as well. Programs and funding, you got to see just a quick snippet of what Alex is doing with GIS mapping and story maps and our data hub. We continue to evolve with that. The Congressional Connections meetings that Zach coordinates and hosts. The regional climate planning approach and the grant from Commerce that we're facilitating on behalf of 5 of our communities is one of the first times that we've come together on that's beyond what mandated to do, and that's going very well. Our Brownfields grant, we're in our last few months of that $600,000 original grant, so we've received it, we've done everything we needed to do, and now we're waiting to see if we can get a new grant there. The ARPA funding agreement with Benton and Franklin counties, you know, the fact that through advice of the board, we were able to work with the counties in order to successfully negotiate to receive some funds and provide that support. The broadband planning grant and our facilitation of the broadband action team activities. The Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that Aaron's team brought in last fall. All really good indications of programs and funding. Looking forward to 2025 and 2027, multiple goals are in progress, so we're off to a good start. Just a couple of things that we're focusing on right now. Our new, we'll call it municipal website, but we have secured the services of Civic Plus to set up and upgrade what we have for our website for the COG, and that should be ready to go live by June 1st. So we're working on that now. We're also developing a communications plan and a continuity of operations plan, both of which were not things we had before. So really good conversations there with staff. So I know that was quick and dirty. When I stop and look back over that, really the last 4 years, but looking at that first 3 years of activity, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of all the things that actually got done. But from a staff standpoint, when I think about where we started at the end of 2021 to just figure out who we wanted to be and what we wanted to do, and how many of those we actually were able to get accomplished and move forward. I'm really proud of everybody's effort with that, and I hope the board is too. Okay. So if there aren't any questions about that, I'll move on to my general update. And we'll keep this really high level. There's a lot of things that I work on that are, you know, kind of ongoing, but Alexis and I continue to work on a member assessment methodology. You know, why do you pay what you pay in dues and how are the percentages defined? We've been gathering information from our peer organizations, both MPOs and councils of governments, to figure out how do they do it and what formulas and strategies do they use. We've also received. Okay, perfect.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that, and I'm really glad we got all of our action items done earlier. We were just doing a quick last general update for me. Oh. Yeah. Click on the PowerPoint so I can advance it. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Okay. Outreach and engagement. We mentioned last month that we, as staff, have submitted several proposals to conferences to try and do updates on activities for the COG and best practices. We're still waiting to hear on that. I do want to give a shout out for the transportation staff, especially Lizzie and Daisy. They last month after our board meeting poems event at OBS Lounge, and I know when I saw it, I went, "What are we doing? What is it?" But had really great participation, especially from staff from BFT, but along with the community, where people came to OBS and they were encouraged to share a poem about transportation and also log in and note locations where we're looking for safety issues for our social pinpoint and our safety action plan. So really creative and fun, and it was well received, and I understand that at least one member of the BFT staff even wrote a rap, and apparently it was quite the event. So I just think it's great that the team is willing to be creative and look at doing things a little bit different than the way we've always done it. So good job to Lizzie and Daisy specifically on that project. Zach and I participated in a meeting with Franklin County hosted by Commissioner Bauman, looking specifically for ways to encourage support for the city of Mesa. Our small, especially what I would call our micro cities, really struggle sometimes to have the resources to be connected to all the things that they need to support them. So I really commend Commissioner Bauman for bringing that group together. When Zach and I showed up, we were figuring maybe there'd be 4 or 5 people. There was 20 plus in the room talking about multiple issues and how support could be provided. So that was really great discussion. We talked a little bit last month about the potential for a legislative proviso ask and the effort that we did with the members to identify that outer loop study as the larger activity. We wanted to look at what were all the necessary infrastructure projects to create an outer transportation loop, and how do we study them in relation to each other as opposed to independent activities. TriDeck submitted the proviso request through Senator King. We have received expressions of support from multiples of our regional legislators. And of course, this is a terrible year to ask for money, and this is a good exercise regardless of whether funding comes through this year or not, but the process is moving. We talked about the regional PFD situation already under our action report. Our brownfields grant, we are just finalizing our last project with City of Kennewick. They've got a survey starting, I believe, next week, gathering information related to the downtown area-wide plan that we're producing for them. Once that project's done, that'll be the last piece of that grant. And then for the broadband action teams, the state has had open its second round of applications for broadband infrastructure funding. It actually closed on the 16th, and the third round will be opening, and it'll be open through the end of July. At that point, we will hear who applied for money, who got money. I have heard some concerns, however, that whether the state was going to be able to have some of the matching funds that they'd originally intended. And I've heard concern from some of the communities who did submit for funding that if that matching funding is not available, they might have to pull out of their grant request. So there's still a lot of questions there. Both of our subcommittees have been on hold for the last couple of months while we're just waiting for information to settle from a federal level to the state, so people know what they can do and not do. And that was it for staff reports. Done all our action items.
All right, thank you. And do we have any new business?
We do not have any business that I am aware of.
All right, I do think we have some time for our board member, our director updates. Can we start with Benton-Franklin Transit? Anything to report?
Thomas is gone, but Richard looks like he's.
Richard's here.
Well, I'm still here, but no, nothing much. I appreciate the kudos on our Ben-Franklin staff. Our marketing department is excellent, and hopefully, but other than that, nothing to comment.
Thank you, Richard. And I believe Michael Alvarez had stepped off to his appointment. We'll move to Benton City. Anything to report back from Benton City? Len is also falls off.
I am here. I guess I wasn't sure if Mayor Burton was still on. Nothing real new to report. Would like to thank you guys for your letter of support regarding our hometown grants application, and we're working hard on continuing to improve our city here. So appreciate your guys' help and support.
Thank you. And do we have City of Connell? We don't have Connell. All right, and then do we have John Trumbo on the call from City of Kennewick? Yes, we do.
This is John Trumbo, and I've stayed to the end, although the connection has been in and out all the way on my attempt to listen in on your meeting. I find it very informative and educational. I am the alternate for the city today, as our mayor is unavailable. So I persisted and I learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And City of Pasco.
Sorry about that. I'm here. Yes, a couple things. First of all, I would like to invite everyone out on Saturday if you can make it or it's not on your calendar already for the PWRF grand opening out off of Foster Wells Road. That is the Pasco Water Reuse Facility. You know, it's really just putting the whole Tri-Cities area as a whole on the map for what we're able to do, you know, with those processing plants, reusing the water, selling the algae off the top for nitrates back into the farming community, reselling the methane that comes off of it. And it's just really a wonderful, I guess, just project, just highlighting green energy and it just kind of checks all the boxes. So we're very proud of that project and definitely invite everybody for that this Saturday. We've begun widening project on Broadmoor Boulevard between the interstate and Burns Road. And then last but not least, I guess we're just eagerly waiting, like so many other municipalities, to see if there are any transportation funds available for all of our requested projects, whether from the COG or the Good Roads Association, really trying to get that Road 76 overpass done to alleviate the congestion of the Road 68 area. So anyways, great meeting. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. From City of Prosser, the City of Prosser was invited to attend a cultural exchange program in Copenhagen, Denmark, regarding housing. So I will be attending that next week with 20 other members throughout the state of Washington. We have good representation from Eastern Washington for the housing workshop, including Jacob Gonzalez from Pasco. We've got a couple of representatives from Sunnyside and Yakima and also from Spokane, in addition to folks on the west side. So we'll be touring neighborhoods within Copenhagen as well as small towns around the city to look at how to build walkable, people-oriented neighborhoods and housing. City of Richland.
Yeah, I don't have an update, but I kudos to you, Michelle. I gotta say, I'm very impressed every time I come over here and see the presentation that you guys put together, the GIS maps and, all the just data and information that is well put together. There's so much thought into it that I can tell that you guys have a lot of patience, and I want to thank you for that, because we haven't seen that coming from the Benton-Franklin Council of Government for many years. So seeing this and coming over here makes me want to just be here all the time at every single meeting. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that really means that we are making a difference in our community. So thank you for your leadership. And thank you, everybody, for being a very good steward of our tax dollar. That being said, I would like to know if there is any issues that we need to be concerned right now, being that there is a lot of turmoil within the federal government regarding the funding. How is that going to play now with the organization and the Tri-Cities overall?
Sure.
At this point, we're still in kind of a wait and see. The indications that we are hearing from our federal programs and our federal partners, I'm not hearing any real alarm for the programs that we operate under as of right now. Internally, we are looking at and analyzing where are we at in terms of maybe temporary delays in funding while things get figured out. So that we know what we can, how long we can operate with what kind of funding we have. Again, having a reserve fund versus not having had one before is a much more comfortable place to be than where we used to be. In terms of transportation funding, we've been very conservative with our spending of allocated federal dollars. So we have some funds that have already been reserved and are being held by Washout at the state for us. So again, we have some funds to fall back on, barring something radical that nobody's considered before, like a unexpected clawback of funding or something like that. But for right now, it really is kind of wait and see. As far as the Economic Development Administration, I've had much less communication out of that department than transportation related organizations like AMPO have been very involved federally and trying to funnel information to organizations. So I do feel like we have a much better sense of what's happening related to transportation dollars. But that's also a much smaller amount of our overall operating budget as well when we talk about the EDA. So yes, we're aware and like everybody waiting to see. I think the shift that's going to impact us most is not, I don't think funding related so much as mission direction related. There was so much effort put in over the last 4 years to add in focuses on DEI and other areas that now those are going to be walked back and what replaces those or changes in emphasis on what we study, why we study it, the data that we collect. I think we're going to see a lot more impact that way than funding, but it's anybody's game right now.
Yeah, City of West Richland.
Sure. So I am just coming back after 2 weeks in Ireland, which if you can afford it, I strongly recommend it. I honestly didn't want to come back, but I'm here. And I will say that the thing that's highest on my mind right now is something related to my other job, in that I'm really concerned with the federal workforce that we are likely going to be seeing reductions in forces locally, and also that's beginning to affect contractors. So hopefully we can try and find places within our community for those workers to find work, as sometimes it is very highly specialized. I'm also concerned with, if we do end up losing a lot of federal workers, we are going to be losing people that are taxpayers, people that are homeowners, and what's going to happen to those homes? Are they going to be snagged up by corporations who are going to be renting them at exorbitant prices and not being the best landlords? So those are the concerns at the top of my mind, maybe not specifically for West Richland, but for our community.
Thank you, Kate. Franklin County. I think they're on the call any longer. And Port of Benton.
Yeah, I got a couple of items I wanted to update you on. One is both related to the railroad. And I am very excited to announce that we got 3,000 ties replaced in the last month. And you'll see the railroad speed be doubled up to 10 miles an hour within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Mid-April is kind of the window we're looking at. And that's the halfway mark. And we need another 12,000 ties replaced within the next year to get the speed back up to 25, which is where it's supposed to be. And my last item is the at-grade crossing on 240 going up Horn Rapids. Right now we're targeting the 4 days outage for May 29th through the June 1st. So that weekend after Memorial Day would be a detour going out to Horn Rapids on 240. So that's the tentative. Get DOT to bless it for us.
It's not a check, man.
What days were there?
May 29th through June 1st is our tentative date for that replacement of the at grade crossing 240 Horn Rapids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we hear a report back from WSDOT or?
Yes, we will, and also I do have a report for Vicki Gordon. The Port of Pasco had to reschedule one of their commission meetings to this morning, so that's why we don't have a primary or an alternate. But the report Vicki sent over is that their new executive director, Adam Lincoln, started on March 1st. Randy Hayden's last day will be March 28th. And their new commissioner, Hansen Gelke, is getting up to speed quickly and is a great addition to the commission. We should just want to put that down.
Thank you. And then report from WSDOT.
Okay, so yesterday was the Washington State Good Roads meeting. I saw very familiar names in attendance, so I'm not trying to totally go over that, but our new Secretary of Transportation, Drew Meredith, spoke, talked about a few things. I think the interesting thing was Billy Wallace from the labor union, who's been very active up on in Olympia, talking to representatives. Seems to have some positive news that there might be some funding for revenue or for transportation. We did have the revenue forecast drop this week, and while it was a little more positive, very little, there's still issues on what projects moving forward and how we're going to deal with that in the future. So we're just kind of, we're starting our summer construction season already. Our maintenance forces are transitioning out of winter operations. The past has been very interesting the last couple of weeks. Winter is still here up there. So all I'd say is we're just kind of waiting to see what the budgets that will drop from both houses next week. What that means. And so as I mentioned, it is construction season. If you travel for some reason, take you over the Vantage Bridge, we're already into a single lane configuration. If you go on Friday afternoon, if you're headed east, you will be delayed up to 2 or 3 hours. And it's mainly just that Friday from noon to 6. So you can avoid that, and there are lots of alternative routes.
Good to know, thank you. And then, do we require a motion to adjourn?
We do not.
Oh, right. Well, that concludes our meeting. We can go ahead and adjourn. It is 11:53.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.
you.